Okay, so let's get started. We're going to be taking a look in this training module at set up a basic style rally anti-lag control using our link G5 and G4X for programming. Now, a rally style anti-lag is what we use on a turbocharged engine if we want to build boost in our overrun lift throttle situations. If you've ever seen in-car from a rally driver inside of a rally vehicle, we're going to find that the driver does a lot of throttle modulation. In fact, they'll go to a hairpin turn, and sometimes they're coming off the throttle considerably so that they can control the car's rotation, and they come back on the throttle, and the car is going to straighten out or go ahead and slide a certain direction and then start to straighten out and get it back under control. In that throttle type of modulation situation, you're going to find that they have boost generating when they're off throttle, lift throttle situations, so that when they're coming back on the throttle, there is no turbo lag. The boost is instantaneously there, and it is very seamless. Now, we can implement that on our street vehicle, on a rally vehicle, even on a road course vehicle to simulate that same kind of control and generating that boost in that overrun type of condition. So generally speaking, when we're in overrun, we come off the throttle, the air mass coming into the engine is going to go way down because the throttle blade's closing. And then we'll find as a result of the air mass decreasing, the exhaust mass flow decreases. The exhaust mass flow is just what's coming out of your exhaust manifold going into your turbocharger to spin it to generate the boost pressure. When we're in a rally anti-lag condition, we want to drive up our exhaust mass flow so it doesn't drop, doesn't taper down as our throttle blade closes. So we introduce airflow, additional airflow into the engine, and we're going to be going in retarding timing to generate higher exhaust temperature and creating later combustion to create higher exhaust mass flow. And then we also have some type of a fuel or ignition cut that we implement. We can also go and add a certain percentage of fuel as well if you feel a need to do so to try to control your EGTs and control that combustion. Essentially, what we're trying to do is creating extremely late combustion to the point where it's pushing most of the combustion pressure out of the exhaust valve into the exhaust manifold and into the turbine housing to spin that turbo faster. We want to generate boost on overrun, and the only way to accomplish this is to drive up the exhaust mass flow. Now, there are a couple of different ways we can do this. So we can do this virtually programming, again, cutting fuel or spark, going in and retarding the timing, and then also introducing some additional airflow through an idle control motor or drive-by-wire. That can create a little bit of a pushing effect when you're coming back on the throttle. So that's definitely not the most desirable way to do it. We can actually integrate an anti-lag valve, which is essentially a wastegate that's going to take fresh pressurized air, typically from your charge pipe, and it's going to be pushing it into the exhaust manifold and bumping up your exhaust mass flow by introducing essentially compressed air into the exhaust manifold. And then we can set conditions in the programming that allows us to really drive up that exhaust mass flow on top of the additional airflow that's being pumped through the exhaust manifold, and then building up that exhaust mass flow going into the turbocharger. We're going to look at how to integrate that method in the next training module. Setting up an anti-lag valve is the best way to go about setting up rally anti-lag control. However, it does require custom fabrication and wiring and a bunch of additional work in order to implement it. But we will look at the advanced style rally anti-lag control, the next training module, and learn how we can actually build a strategy around an anti-lag valve. What we're doing now is just going through the basic setup, keeping it simple. We're going to assume that we're on a cable-driven throttle body, and we're running an idle control motor, whether it's a stepper motor or a pulse width modulated motor. Recall when we were talking in our idle control tutorials, the idle control motor is just a controlled vacuum leak, essentially allowing us to bypass more airflow into the engine across the throttle blade. So if we have the idle control motor wide open, we'll have a big airflow leak and having a lot higher air mass coming into the engine, and therefore driving up our exhaust mass flow. So that's what we're going to be working with here in this training module. You can use and work with this for drive-by-wire control. We will have a separate training module once we learn how to set up drive-by-wire and how the system works for idle and doing our full throttle tuning and understanding the system as a whole. We will be introducing another rally anti-lag tutorial basing the rally anti-lag control around drive-by-wire rather than an idle control motor. For right now, let's dig in here and let's see how this basic control works to get it started and to get this set up. All right, what we're going to do here is move from our fuel page, and we're going to jump across here. Let's use our right arrow here. We're gonna go all the way to the end. Under our last page, we find here, Rally Anti-Lag. We click on this, we can see here that we can turn some things on and start to take a look at what we have for programming. So under our anti-lag mode, we're gonna go from off and we're gonna turn this to on. Let's go ahead and allow that to populate. Now it's gonna ask me, do you wanna clear out other default tables to values of 0? We'll just say yes here and just allow these all to turn on. So we have a bunch of different tables here. We have an anti-lag fuel cut table. We have an anti-lag fuel trim table, anti-lag ignition cut table, anti-lag ignition trim table. We have a cyclic IAC override table. And then we also have a AL anti-lag IAC override table. We'll talk about what these two represent here in just a little bit, but we can take a look that these tables have now been populated. So what we want to do is go in here and first set up a arming system for the Rally anti-lag to function. So if we go here to off, we can use always on, which means that the Rally anti-lag is always on. I recommend that you don't do this. I recommend you set it on some type of a switched input for the link so that you can turn on or off the feature. Now you may be working with an on-off toggle switch. We know how to set that up here in the software. You may also be working with a CAN input coming from, let's just say a CAN keypad. That'd be another option here that we can work with for setting up an arming input. Right here, we have our CAN digital inputs. So this would be from our CAN keypad. We could just have a momentary, so we push the button, it arms it, turn the button off, disarms it. Up to you how you're setting this up, how you're working with your vehicle. For right now, just to keep this simple, I don't need to go in and configure how to show how to configure setting up an on-off toggle switch for this setup here. We talked about it already. We're gonna go here and use always on, just so the system is always armed. Now the anti-lag solenoid, we're gonna keep this set as none. What this is saying...
Thanks for checking out our teaser clip. If you wanna see the rest of this video and more than 500 hours of current EFI training we have to offer, make sure you click right here. If you wanna go and check out more teaser clips from this training course, click here, and you don't wanna miss any of the videos we're gonna be releasing on this channel, so make sure you subscribe and click here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.